Hi, I'm Colin, and today thinking about how and when driverless vehicles could be requisitioned. Now, driverless vehicles are more and more common. It's at very early stages of the technology at the moment, but in the future, you're going to see more and more of them, and most passenger vehicles, or other vehicles for that matter, are going to have this capability in the future. So, what are the considerations for requisitioning them? Now, this would be achieved by remote control over the vehicle from a government centre with a suitable number of qualified operators. Technically, this isn't difficult, it would just need a little bit of logistics to set up. The government or the military may wish to requisition vehicles, so cars, planes, boats, whatever, under specific circumstances. Most common ones that would spring to mind would be either in a military situation or in a natural disaster, so that they can help the civilian population. If we think through a few likely scenarios and see how this fits. So, for example, there's a wartime situation or a natural disaster and some civilians are at risk. They've maybe lost their own means of transportation. Vehicles could be requisitioned and sent to their location to evacuate either stranded people or wounded people and take them back to safety. Similarly, troops could be moved up near the front line using requisitioned vehicles. Imagine another scenario. There is an invasion and there are some, for example, armoured personnel carriers coming into your territory. You could requisition some trucks to block their way on the road. Then what about if there's an ambulance wanting to get through traffic? The traffic could automatically have their systems overridden so that they automatically get out of the way of the ambulance so it can do its job. What about if there are police checkpoints or military checkpoints? Rather than asking vehicles to slow in time, they could be automatically slowed, and if they were looking very high risk, they could be stopped at a safe distance from the checkpoint. Similarly, if there were some very sensitive areas, let's say government buildings or high risk, what could be targets for terrorism, it could be ensured that vehicles couldn't drive at them at speed, so let's say couldn't mount a pavement near an embassy, for example. Similarly, if there was a convoy of requisitioned vehicles in a war zone, the lead vehicle could be an empty one, so that if there were any IEDs on the way, that those would explode on an empty vehicle, keeping the passengers in the following vehicles quite safe. Other safety considerations could be, for example, if there was an overcrowded inner tunnel and the ventilation system wasn't working, that the engines could be automatically turned off so they aren't generating fumes, which could be dangerous for people. Similarly, if there'd been a car crash and the emergency services are there trying to rescue the passengers, that the fuel could be automatically cut off, or the airbag could be deflated automatically by the emergency services. Now, military requisition of vehicles wouldn't be limited just to cars and buses and trucks. What about boats? So boats could be used like a version of Dunkirk, but just all with requisitioned driverless boats, or for ferrying military cargo, or for checking an area, driving a boat first over an area that could have mines in it, and then the same could apply in the air. For aircraft, if there was, for example, a pilot who had a medical emergency, the plane could be requisitioned to land safely. If a plane had been hijacked, it could also be requisitioned to fly to the correct destination. So you can see there are great benefits if the government is requisitioning vehicles, and this will be, I think, needed in the future. The only problem is this would be very, very dangerous if it got into the wrong hands, so these would really need to be military grade secure systems to make sure that they weren't misused. So I'd expect to see some government legislation in various countries on this in the future as driverless vehicles become more and more common. It really has to be thought about, and it could be of great benefit. If it's not dealt with proactively, it could also be a great risk, so I'm hoping to see that this does become common practice in the future.